I still miss him sometimes. I miss those late nights, watching horror flicks and eating candy till our stomachs began to ache. I miss faking being sick so we could play video games instead of going to school. I miss our mom, seeing right through it, and forcing us to go anyway. I miss riding our bikes up trails and stealing soda from the local 7-Eleven. I miss my brother. I miss Jeffrey Woods, even after what he became. I remember when we first moved to BrookBend, Indiana. It was August 6, 2008. I was 14 and Jeff was 17. Our parents wanted a quieter life, and nowhere fit that place better than BrookBend. Every house looked identical, either painted gray or navy blue, with the same stupid white welcome sign at every front door. The whole community sat in a bowl of forest, cornfield, and trapped under a constant gray haze. My dad got a job at the straw mill, a job that the majority of the town either had or benefited from. There wasn't much to do besides hang out at the dying mall or graffiti the defunct mental institution at the edge of town. BrookBend was the kind of place that GPS would gaslight you into thinking wasn't real. BrookBend? Did you mean South Bend? Brownsburg? But after a long while, you'd finally find it. BrookBend, Indiana, home of the paper straw, population 400. On our second day of moving, our neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Prescott, had come by with muffins. It seemed like a nice welcome to the neighborhood gift. However, after taking a bite out of one of those dry muffins, I couldn't tell if this was a kind gesture or a plot to kill us. "Hey Liu," my mom spoke, having noticed me already helping myself to the revolting treat. "How about you and Jeff visit the mall today? Get away from this dusty house." She didn't seem like a favor to us, but in retrospect, she was really trying to do herself a favor. This was her introduction to some of the neighbors, and she didn't want sweaty teenage boys ruining first impressions. Still, being the perfect son that I was, I got ready to leave. "Jeff!" I yelled up the stairs, still covered in random boxes and knickknacks. "What?" he yelled back from his room. "Mom wants us to go to the mall." "Why?" he replied. "I don't know." I was interrupted by my mother giving me the look. The look that screamed, "You're lucky the neighbors are here, or I would beat your ass." Apparently, us screaming back and forth wasn't a great first impression. Jeff made his way down the stairs, wearing his Converse ripped jeans and thrifted Dark Knight t-shirt. He was lucky Mom was busy, or else he'd get an earful for wearing his shoes inside. He hopped down the last stair before speaking. "We have guests, don't we?" "Yep," I replied. He rolled his eyes at that comment. He hated everything about moving. He hated the town, he hated how our mom and my father acted. And most of all, he hated the neighbors. This wasn't just me guessing. This was the topic of every single conversation we had since the move. We made our way out the door, the Prescotts giving Jeff a few quick glances before returning to their conversation. Jeff had suffered from albinism, a condition that caused a lack of pigment in his skin and hair, aka super white guy. It was as if his skin had forgotten to be alive. His slim stature didn't help his appearance, neither did his thick, long hair that he had dyed black during his emo phase, something that I refused to let him live down. He only kept it black since it helped cover up his condition. Back in California, he was rarely picked on for his looks. It was an area where everyone expressed themselves, and Jeff was just another weirdo among the weird. However, in small-town Indiana, everyone's gaze turned immediately towards Jeff. This proved especially true once we reached the mall. The illuminated sign outside read, "Mall of BrookBend." However, the M had lost power, so it really read, "All of BrookBend." Not far from the truth, if you ask me. Every store I went into, Jeff got strange looks. He made it seem like it didn't bother him, but every now and then, I catch him looking at his reflection in the glass, jaws tight, knuckles white. After 40 minutes of large, barren stores, Jeff finally let out, "This mall is shit." It's not that bad. It was pretty bad. The only thing that kept me going was the smell of cinnamon pretzels filling the void. I swear they were pumping the smell through the vents. The only food we could find was Sbarro and a closed-down Chick-fil-A on a Friday night. "Not that bad?" He gestured at the closed store in front of us. "Old Lady. What the fuck is Old Lady? They couldn't even get Old Navy." I laughed. "Come on, I'm sure there's like a hot topic or something for you, emo boy." "Old Lady. That's all I'm saying." We walked away empty-handed, probably for the best since we were both broke, and sat on a concrete bench outside the mall. Jeff put one of his cigarettes between his lips and lit a match, cupping the cigarette as he lit it. "I wish you wouldn't do that." "Smoke?" "Yeah. We had a PSA at school last year about how many people die from that. Your teeth are gonna get moldy and your lungs will get black." Jeff gave me a faint smile. "Sounds like a great reason for you not to smoke." I refuted. "I'd prefer if you didn't either." Jeff shot me an empathetic look and took the cigarette out of his mouth, nicotine smoke blowing in my face as he did. "How about this? If you can guess how many cigarettes I have left in my pack, this'll be my last cigarette." "Really?" I scoffed, not believing him for a second. Jeff was always a great liar. "I'll even give you my matchbook." "Deal." We shook hands as if completing a business transaction. I took a few seconds, trying to remember how many cigarettes I had seen Jeff smoke since he last got that pack. "Come on, Liu. I'm getting bored. Just guess." I blurted out the first number that came to mind. 22. Jeff's eyes widened. "Damn it. Right on the money." He made a defeated expression and stomped out the rest of his current cigarette. "What can I say? Math is my best subject." I think my highest grade in math was a C. He tossed me the matchbook. "Here, punk." I had never felt prouder. I didn't know till now that a pack can only hold 20 cigarettes, and, to Jeff's credit, that was the last time I had ever seen him smoke one. After a while of chatting on the bench, 3 teens, around Jeff's age, walked past us. The taller, blonde-haired one stopped, taking a long look at Jeff. "Wow, Dracula. This your first time outside?" Jeff looked down. The boy continued. "Damn, dude. Didn't mean to get you in your feels. It's just... damn. Do you have a disease or something?" "Back off, dude," I responded for Jeff. Something he hated me doing, but was necessary when he wouldn't defend himself. "Calm down, man. Just making conversation. Haven't seen you two around. Are you new?" "Yeah, we just moved here," I responded. Jeff kept his head down, however I noticed the tightening of his pale jaws. "I'm Randy." He extended his right hand to Jeff and gestured with his left to the other boys. "This is my little brother Keith and my friend Troy." Randy wore a gray sleeveless shirt, tan shorts, and a greasy blonde mullet on his head. Keith, on the other hand, was a redhead, closer to my age, and had on a plain black shirt with light blue jeans. Troy was the biggest, in size and weight, wearing a gray beanie, in the summer, a black wife beater, and gym shorts. They looked like your stereotypical Stephen King bullies, without the knives or guns. Jeff finally took Troy's hand, shaking it tightly. "Jeff, and this is my brother Liu." The boy smiled at us, not in a nice, welcome to the neighborhood way, but we're making insults in our heads right now kind of way. "Damn, you've got sweaty ass hands," Randy blurted out, brushing his hands against his shorts. He looked back at Troy and Keith. "Seriously, feel this shit." He whipped his hands across Keith's face, who laughed and acted disgusted. Jeff's hands were now clenched. Noticing his clenched hands, Keith uttered, "No offense," in a way that would be impossible to take no offense from. Troy spoke up. "Come on, guys. I have to get home soon." "Treat some donuts?" Keith replied. Jeff chuckled to himself at the comment, causing Troy to glare at him. Troy punched Keith in the shoulder. "Shut the fuck up. My dad needs me to mow before it rains tonight." Randy smiled at his friend. "Fine." He looked at both of us and began to walk away with his group. "See you around, Frosty." Jeff didn't say anything. Neither did I. but I saw the way he looked at them as they walked off, like he was memorizing their names, like he already knew what he wanted to do. Maybe if I had said something, things would have been different. When they were finally out of sight, Jeff spoke. "Fuck this town. I'm leaving and moving back to Cali." "Come on, Jeff. It's been 2 days. 2 days too many. You should come with me. We can live with Auntie Ruth, have our old friends, go to the skate park like we used to." "I hate Auntie Ruth. And how are we going back? On a plane? Neither of us have money for that. Just shut up." "I know you're right. Just let me dream. You sound just like Mom and Phil." He never called Dad Dad. I guess he wasn't technically his dad. He was my dad. Jeff's dad was long gone, leaving our mom the second she was pregnant with Jeff. However, Phil came along and helped our mom when she was pregnant. Jeff took his last name. Phil was even the one who named Jeff. I guess that still wasn't enough for him. Phil still wasn't his dad. I sometimes wondered if he was jealous of me. I was the youngest, the golden child. I didn't have albinism. I didn't get weird looks. I didn't have to feel ashamed. I had a mom. I had a dad. Weeks passed of the same boring routine. Empty boxes, meet neighbors, try to find something to do in this town. Settle on playing video games with Jeff. School started soon after, with me as a freshman and Jeff as a senior. Due to our age gap, we didn't have any classes together, and the only times I'd see him was in the hallway. People would call him Frosty, no doubt started by Randy. And he'd mostly keep to himself. For a couple of weeks, I saw him with this red-headed girl named Jane. She seemed nice and didn't bully him like the rest. In my humble opinion, she definitely had a crush on Jeff. Who knew? One cigarette away from death was a type. And I think he had a crush on her too. However, they stopped talking in the halls by October. No doubt Jeff's fault. And he was alone again. I felt bad for him, but I was 14. I had other friends other than my brother. It wasn't my job to babysit a 17-year-old. I still wish I would have done something. Maybe that could have saved him. But I doubt it. Every time we'd return from school, Jeff would go straight into his room, staying there till dinner. I used to call him Piggy, since I started to only see him when he was eating. Other times he was in his room, and I was with my friends. One time, when I entered his room, I saw him looking in the mirror, not checking himself out, not popping a pimple. He just stared, like he was trying to figure something out, like he was daydreaming, like he was planning. I didn't see much of Randy, Keith, or Troy, but Jeff saw them every day at school. They wouldn't steal his lunch money or beat him up, but they do petty stuff like kicking his bag, tripping him, or just calling him slurs. Basic high school boy stuff. There was nothing to do in BrookBend. The closest theater was 20 miles away. There were no arcades, no shopping centers, and no spectacles. So Jeff became the spectacle. This pale, scrawny man. Look how he walks. Look how he talks. Why does he have any friends? Mom and Dad hated this, but they seemed more mad at Jeff than mad for him. "Can you at least try to make some friends?" I heard my mom say once through the walls of my room. "You don't think I'd try? No one wants to be friends with Vampire Boy," Jeff yelled back. "Well, maybe if you had a more positive attitude, they wouldn't treat you like this." Positive attitude? Yeah. How's this for positivity? I don't know what he did, but it was bad enough for my dad to get involved. "You do not do that to your mother." "Shut the fuck up, Phil." Mom had come back in. "You treat him with respect." "Respect? Treat him with respect? After he made us leave Callie and our life behind? It was a mutual decision," Mom protested. "Whatever." The front door swung open. "And wear some brighter clothes, for Christ's sake." Mom got out before the door slammed shut behind Jeff. They did care about Jeff. I know they did. But they cared about their image more than either of us. In California, we were seen as white trash, dysfunctional. Now is their chance to create a perfect image, a representation of the American dream. a dream where Jeff didn't belong. They'd staged family photo shoots, the sole purpose of which was to put the pictures around the house for guests to admire. Jeff refused to wear the same nice clothes or smile as everyone else, so they simply cut him out. Jeff was so far removed from the family dynamic that people would make fun of Jeff near me, not knowing we were brothers. Imagine their shock when the random blonde kid would stick up for the pale ghost. Our house was about 10 minutes away from the school, so instead of being on the bus list, we rode our bikes to and from school. It was some of the few times Jeff and I would hang out during the school year. Unfortunately, one afternoon, we went to grab our bikes after school. They were missing. The locks that held them in were picked and we had to walk home that day. As we began our defeated walk home, Jeff asked, "Are you free tonight, Leo?" "Depends on what you're thinking of doing." Leaves crunched beneath my feet. "I don't know, I figured we'd hit up the gas station or something." I laughed. "A gas station? What? There's nothing better to do around here." "Sure, but you're paying." He smiled. "Deal." Later that night, we surfed through the Speedway slushy flavors like it was our first time tasting anything. Cherry Bomb Blast, Tiger's Blood, Coca-Cola, Raspberry Rush, and Pina Colada. I still remember those flavors bursting in my mouth as a chill swept across my brain. We would mix and match all the different combinations so the workers realized we had no plans for paying for them. After getting kicked out of the Speedway and stealing some chips on our way out, we made our way along the railroad tracks. Jeff walked in the center while I tried my best to balance along the edge, constantly falling on top of Jeff at each failure. I can still smell that crisp autumn air filled with apple pie, pumpkins, and bonfires. We made our way to the family video, searching through cheesy action films and trying to sneak a peek at the adult section. We settled on Spider-Man 3. We hadn't seen the first two, but they weren't selling those. We actually paid for the movie and made our way back home. I remember the breeze on my face as Jeff started imitating Spider-Man's web slinging to keep me entertained. But I didn't need to be entertained. I was happy. Pure bliss. I think this is the last time I had ever felt such happiness. While we walked across the burnt orange tracks, we ran into three familiar faces. Randy, Keith, and, of course, Troy, riding their bikes along the wooded trail. We couldn't help but notice Randy and Keith's bikes. Etched into the sides read JW and LW. "Those are our fucking bikes," Jeff yelled towards them. Randy noticed our presence and yelled from the trail, "Oh fuck, it's Frosty and his brother." They rode up towards us, stopping in front of the tracks. "What were you yelling about?" "Those are our bikes," I responded, noticing Jeff starting to freeze up. He did the typical clenching of his fists and jaws. It was as if he was imagining doing something, but never actually had the bandwidth to actually go through with it. The fat kid spoke up, smiling as he did. "No, I think these are ours," I rebutted sharply. "No, Randy and Keith's bikes, lard ass." Randy laughed at my comment. "Really now?" Jeff's knuckles turned pale, even paler than his already ghostly skin. Keith spoke up. "We just found these lying around. Didn't know these were yours. They literally have our names on them." I gestured at the initials carved into the metal bikes. Randy stepped in front of his brother. "Sorry, man. Maybe you should lock him up. I know you only knew, but in this town there's a sort of finders keepers rule." Jeff finally spoke, stammering around every word. They were locked up. You picked it." "That's quite the allegation," Randy mocked. Just give us back our fucking bikes, Randy." "Oh, so he can speak up." Keith turned to the rest of the group. "Still, like Randy said, finders, keepers." I began to speak before being cut off by Randy. "Come on, Keith. Let's just give them back their bikes." Keith looked shocked at his older brother's response, but listened as they began to return our bikes. Randy gave me mine back with a nod, but when it came to Keith returning Jeff's, he pulled out a black butterfly knife and popped the front tire. "Oops. Sorry, man. It slipped." He laughed with the other two boys. Jeff's knuckles were now crimson. Randy looked at Jeff, faking a sorrowful expression. Damn, that sucks. Not like you need to lose any more pounds anyways, right, Woods? Keith patted Jeff on the shoulder. I think that was it. That was the last of Jeff's restraint. Jeff punched Keith across the face, knocking Keith off balance and causing him to drop his knife. Before any of us could react, Jeff was on top of Keith, beating his face in repeatedly. Tori and Randy were now frozen. Randy always played the tough guy, but he wasn't physically imposing in the slightest. He didn't get into fights at school, he didn't even make fun of other kids. Jeff was just an easy target for him, but now, Jeff was fighting back. Randy couldn't fight back. He couldn't even defend his brother. I don't know why I didn't stop Jeff. Maybe I was too scared. Or maybe I wanted this too. But Jeff took it too far. He beat Keith to a bloody pulp, breaking his nose and splitting his cheek. I swear that I could smell the iron in the air. He wouldn't stop. Keith wasn't moving. Finally, Jeff took the butterfly knife lying on the ground and plunged it into Keith's shoulder. Suddenly, we heard sirens in the distance. A neighbor probably filed a noise complaint. This sound broke all of us out of our trance, and I ran up to Jeff. Come on, man, we have to go. I had to practically pull Jeff off Keith's unmoving body, and we ran. We ran faster than I had ever ran. We didn't know where we were going. We just ran. The autumn breeze blowing against my face as we did. We finally stopped at some old pawn shop, catching our breaths in the empty parking lot. Jeff began laughing uncontrollably, a laugh I had never heard before, but will forever take up residency in the dark corners of my mind. Did you see that? Jeff exclaimed, brimming with excitement. Randy definitely pissed himself. I gave no response and just stared at this man in front of me, the man who had just beaten a kid's face in and stabbed him in the shoulder. Jeff's glee was untamable. He continued, those fuckers will never mess with us again, right, Liu? I just stared at him. What else could I do? Noticing my silence, Jeff pressured on, come on, Liu, that was crazy. I finally broke, yeah, you were crazy. Jeff gave me a disheartened look. Liu? You just beat a kid to near death. Fuck, he probably is dead. And you're acting like, I don't know. What the fuck is wrong with you? Wrong with me? What's wrong with them? They stole their bikes. They gave them back. Yeah, after popping my tire. Dad could have gotten you a new tire. Your dad wouldn't have done shit for me. Besides, they've been assholes since we got to this town. They don't deserve to get beaten like that for being assholes. Just because they treat you like that doesn't give you the right to... Jeff cuts me off. The right? To do what? Defend myself? They weren't attacking you. You don't understand, Liu. The shit I deal with on a daily because of people like them. He's right, I didn't. So yeah, I think I had the right to teach them a lesson. Do you hear yourself? Christ, Jeff, you probably killed a kid, and you're calling that a lesson? We stayed silent the rest of the way home. The whole way I stared at the man in front of me. Even after that argument, I could catch him smiling to himself. Smiling about what he did.